Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the After Hour with Wing. Today, it's time. We blew 25 minutes of me rambling about today's episode. But now, he's here. The OG, King of the North, charity auctioneer extraordinaire, the best director any cat horse enthusiast could ask for. Joining me now is Big Jim Miller.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me on, Doc.
Well, thanks for coming because you're awesome.
Oh, not true, but I'll take it.
No, I have to tell you because it lingers in my soul after every week. Um the season that you and the team have put together, like this is the best season for me.
That's great. I love hearing that. I mean, the thing I really like about all this stuff is that everyone has a different opinion about it. Like, there's no one group consensus about what's the best episode or the best season. I really love that it runs the spectrum.
The thing for me, the first thing that I've noticed, and the people who are in my stream have noticed it too. So this is like I'm totally segueing into first question with this.
Hey, no problem. Let's segue away.
Segue away, right? So the thing for me that I've taken away from each episode is that it seems like the pony expressions are just dialed up to max, and they are amazing. So
Yeah, absolutely. Like, everyone knew going in that this was our last season, so there's a lot of let's just go for it and see what Hasbro says no to. And I don't think they've said no to anything. There's been a few that we were like, oh, that's maybe a bit weird, and sort of brought them a little bit more back on model. But, we've had some really talented people, and we're letting them off the leash a little bit.
and I love it. I absolutely like. Big Jim, congrats, and thank you. I'm eating it up. I saw your Twitter. I don't even textual montage. Let's go with that.
The big thank you letter.
The big thank you letter, and it just everything about that just rang true for me. It's such an interesting. It's just an interesting mix when you go through episode to episode and you experience it, and I just can't say enough how awesome I find the dialing up of this season.
That's great. I'm really happy to hear that.
But I do have one deep, dark question.
Okay.
Another segue away. So one thing that we did notice in this stream
Okay.
is at the end of Sombra's return,
Uh-huh.
90% of the stream went, that wasn't Big Jim.
It was not. It was not me.
And so I got. Why didn't you? Is there a reason that the role wasn't brought back?
Well, so way back when I did it the first time, in that episode originally in the script, Sombra didn't have any lines. He was just like a cloud. And when Woody and Jason were putting it together, they realized they needed just a few laughs and stuff to pick it up and support some of the action that was going on. So they had me run downstairs to the recording studio because I had a cold and my voice was extra deep and like late night radio sounding. And the thing is, we didn't go through the proper channels with the voice actors union and all this stuff. So it was poor form on our part. And because usually what you have to do in those situations, you have to do proper auditions, and then you have to sort of justify why you're choosing a particular person. And I wasn't a member of the voice actors union or any of that kind of stuff. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't come back, because we really pooched it on the first time. And then the other reason is he had such a bigger part. And, I've done a little bit of acting, but clearly not to the level of some of the voice actors that have been on the show who are super, super pro. And, we had this episode where T-Rex was coming in and Grogar was coming in, and we already had two guys that had these blah, blah, blah kind of bad guy voices. And we knew that if Sombra had sort of what I had done before, it could potentially run the risk of being hard to distinguish who's who. So that was another reason. So
Ooh,
there you go.
that's thank you. That's
You're welcome.
actually that's like deep for me, because I definitely got it that the new voice, like you just like Crystal Sweat, right? So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and definitely the new voice is a little bit more like suave king in action.
Well, I sort of look at it as two. In my head, it makes sense. Like when he's the non-corporeal, ghostly version, he's a little spookier and gravelly because he's really trying to force his voice out. And then when he's fully formed, he's the super arrogant prince. So in my head, it works. It may not work for everyone, and I understand if people have a preference. So,
Well, I mean, for me, I just missed your voice in there, but I absolutely get it.
thanks, pal.
Definitely. I mean, pretty much for me, it's always been, well, something was done and there's probably a reason why.
Yeah, there's usually a reason. It's not always a glamorous or fun or even controversial reason. And sometimes it's something really benign and just like, someone didn't like it, or that person was sick and unavailable, or any number of things, right?
Also, I have to throw this one in too. The voice of Grogar amazes me. Like every time I hear him speak, I lose it a little inside. I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, it's so good.
That actor's name is Doc Harris, and he's sort of famous around Vancouver. He does a lot of like the radio ads for like Ford trucks and like pickup trucks and manly stuff. So it's pretty good.
Oh, I love it. The first sentence that came out of that goat face, I dug.
That's awesome.
So there's another thing that we've been able to talk about briefly in our random encounters over the years at our pony con magic.
Yeah.
And it's definitely something that I think the casual viewer should probably get a little insight for. So I was hoping you could kind of expand upon the role between what you are doing in the studio with the team and the interactions that come from Hasbro and how that kind of leads or affects the creative process.
Sure. I mean, is there anything specific like you want to get into with that, or?
It's just I think the overall notion of it's not necessarily a free pass from the creative side that you already alluded to, that you have to communicate with them and just
Oh yeah, it's their show. They're paying for it, so obviously they have a say, right? And they have a pretty big say. They can veto anything in the show within reason, and usually at specific stages. So, like, we can't get all the way to like our finishing an episode and they can go like, wait, we don't want to do this episode now. That doesn't happen. They will have seen it enough times and signed off on it at various stages, so they know what's coming. But they get to say stuff like, "Oh, we want to focus more on the main six. The new kids are cool, but we want to maybe not do as much with them now, or whatever." Like they get to have that power, especially with season 9. That was something specifically that came up, as they're like, okay, if this is our last season, we want to see more of the girls together. We want to see more stories focused on them and their interactions. The school is cool, but we're less interested in that at this point. And it's like, okay, well, that's too bad in the sense that we spent all of season 8 kind of setting that up. But, it's understandable. Where was I going with this? But yeah, so they are involved. So every season we would have a story summit where usually the directors and the story editors and the executives, usually like Megan, and we had another executive at Hasbro, Eliza, we'd all meet either in LA or in Vancouver or through Skype or whatever. And we would pitch a bunch of ideas, concepts for sort of an overall arc for the season or specific episodes. And then the executives, Eliza and Megan, would go, cool, we like that. We don't like that. We don't feel like we need to explore this right now or this, or they would challenge us on some of the stories they did, like, okay, that's a neat idea, but what's the emotional core of all these things? So once we have that kind of nailed down, we don't always necessarily get all 26 episodes. Usually we'll get like the first 6 to 12 kind of loosely figured out, very, very loosely, just like basic premises. Like for the season premiere, it was like, so the bad guys are teaming up, the princesses are retiring, Grogar, like we just real basic. We didn't know all the details. So then once that's done, the story editors go off and they get the writers involved and they write stuff and flesh things out. And then, when they submit scripts, there's a couple stages. So they submit a premise, which is super short, and then they have an outline, which is a little bit more fleshed out, and then a first draft of the script with all the dialogue, and then we refine it at each stage. And DHX, the directors, and I are able to give notes and comments on stuff, and then Hasbro also gives notes and comments on stuff, and we can kind of shape it. But ultimately, if Hasbro disagrees with notes that the direction side gives, they supersede anything that we might, because there's been things that I've or that we've fought for, and Hasbro's like, yeah, I don't really think that's an issue, and it's like, okay, well, I guess that's where that ends. And then Hasbro sees stuff at the animatic stage. So once the storyboard's all done and put together and timed, so they weigh in and give notes there. And then they're pretty much hands off until the first edit of the fully animated episode. So they see it at what's called rough cut stage. So that's when all the scenes have come back from top draw and they're animated, and we've fixed up any errors and sort of gotten the timing a little closer to where we want. So they weigh in with notes there. And then they also weigh in at the music stage. So once Will's done a pass of the score, which is usually once the episode is fully locked to time and final animation, they'll weigh in again there. Typically, at each stage, they're giving less story notes and more picture or music comments, but every once in a while they'll have a little tweak. So does that give you kind of an overview? And it's an involved process, and it's hard to distill in a simple way.
I just think it's really important to, at least from my perspective. So yes, it does. It definitely does, and I really wanted to ask you that because I feel like, generally speaking, that's not necessarily something that comes across with the viewers. We don't know what your process is. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Sometimes people will get super critical about something, and you just never know why. Or there's exploring stuff, and really the magnitude of work that goes in to taking something from that premise to the thing that we see on Saturday morning fascinates me a lot.
Right. Well, I mean, one of the things that came up in the last couple seasons is Hasbro was very concerned with the level of deep continuity in the show as being a barrier of entry for new viewers. So that if you watched a season 8 or 9 episode, you would be super lost because you don't know who these returning characters are, what the relationships are, what the world is, and that's why you still see so many slice of life episodes, because we have to balance this the mythology stuff in the show, as well as still carving out a place for these episodes that are kind of evergreen and can be placed in any season. Hasbro doesn't, not to disparage them or anything, but they have a very different mandate than what the fans are asking for. And it's not necessarily good or bad, it's just different. And the thing that a lot of the fans don't remember is that even though the Brony community is pretty big, and we're involved in talking to you guys and stuff, the fan base or even the viewership outside of the Brony community is bigger, and they aren't invested in the same way. So things like early releases, the majority of the kids who watch the show are not online looking for early Italian releases of the show. Most of them watch it when it drops on Netflix. It's not as much of a, they aren't as rabid about it as you guys are.
No, I totally get that. And actually, I'm really glad you brought that point up, because one of the things that comes from, our fan group is we do love that deep continuity. So hearing that Hasbro is concerned about making, this is a sensible statement to me, right? I can put on my logic cap and say, aha, right? That's beautiful. I get that.
Yeah, and I mean, for us, it's just like trying to find that balance so that we can please both masters in a sense. Like this was a show that was never really supposed to have that level of deep world continuity, and it just kind of happened organically. So I can understand why Hasbro's a little bit like, this is real crazy now. But we love it, obviously, and the writers love it, and it's fun to tie those things together, and every once in a while you'll come up with a link and you'll be like, oh, we're geniuses! And, like in season 7 when we came up with the idea of the pillars, and we're like, let's just steal all these names from characters that have been mentioned in the past, and then the bad guy can be this Pony of Shadows things that we've mentioned in the past, and then everyone will think this was the plan from the beginning. No, it wasn't the plan from the beginning. It's called retrofitting. As a scientist, you know how that works. You sometimes just take those parts and put them together in new ways, and now it works.
I'm a huge nerd. that's yes, I do know how that is. Very true. There's a lot of, certainly, like for me, if I'm I'll go with the professional option instead of the crazy one. Generally speaking, what I do, I can say, oh, I'm a fancy scientist and I'm a genius. I'm never the smartest person in the room, ever. And pretty much I'm a glorified hardware babysitter. It's figure stuff out on the fly, and if it happens to make me look good, it happens to make me look good. And that's life. That's how it rolls.
Yeah. And I mean, that's sort of what I'm doing as a director. Like, everyone else is way more skilled than me, and they are so good at their jobs, they make me seem like I'm good at mine.
Oh, you're definitely good at your job, Jim.
You don't even know.
Look, I will tell you, I knew how awesome you were the second you got onto the charity auction stage at Winnie City. For the first time.
The first time?
The first time when it was random. And every single person in the audience was just like, oh! And I was with my friend, because friendship is magic. And he leaned over to me and just was like, that man shits charisma. I was like, yeah.
I don't think those... my name and charisma have never been uttered in the same sentence before that.
Congratulations. We break new ground on this program. All right, I have a complete tangent.
Sure.
Because someone in my stream chat reminded me of something that I absolutely wanted to talk to you about.
Call him out by name. Give him a credit.
It's Carrot. It's Carrot. Carrot brought this up. My bro Carrot. So, we had the glory that was episode 100, which was the shout out pretty much to pony fans.
To the fans, yeah.
And then we had episode 200, which was the amazing heist of cast-related magic.
Yeah.
And I just was hoping you could enlighten on the different processes that went into each of those episodes, and feel free to go off the deep end about episode 200, because I love it.
Sure. So the first one, like, That was in season 5. That's I think it's 509. Is that right? Something like that.
Sure.
Anyway, so Mitch did all the heavy lifting on the figuring out all the fan stuff when he was writing his script. And to be perfectly honest, when I got that script, I'm like, this isn't going to work, because it was so different than what we had been doing, and it was a little bit random, but we just committed to it, right? We knew that this 100 was a big deal. We wanted to make sure it was really well done, and so the board artist on that was Katrina Hadley, who went on to direct on Equestria Girls. She did Rainbow Rocks and all that stuff. And who was the other person on that one? I think it might have been Jason Horchin. Maybe? Yeah. Anyway, there was a few things that, like, from a technical standpoint, we're like, holy shit, how are we going to pull this off? So, like, the DJ and Octavia music stuff, and then the whole riding around on the giant speakers and all that. That's a board artist animation nightmare. Just the level, like having tons of characters in a single location like that, and then having them move around. That's a lot of pencil miles to be drawing in every panel. So she did a great job with that, and with like the Octavia and DJ music, we had to get Will to come up with that before we even boarded it. Usually, Will does all the score stuff at the end, but this one we needed to have that music to time the board out, and it would help inform the action, because if you watch it, actually a lot of the animation is playing off what's happening in the music. So that was a real challenge. And then just another weird factoid on that one. When we were doing one of the edits, one of the rough cuts once animation was done, I had a kidney stone one day that I was supposed to have an edit, and I had to go to the hospital. And I was at the hospital most of the day. But then they gave me a bunch of morphine, and I felt better, so I went into work and still did the edit, because I don't know how to look after myself, apparently.
Oh, no.
But it got done. That's the most important thing. So 200, jumping ahead, there was some talk of, like, for a while, like, what are we going to do for 200? Do we want to do another fan shout-out? And then we sort of bandied that out a little bit. And we sort of thought, like, you know what? We really feel like the cast is, if this is our last season, they've been with us from the beginning. Sometimes they don't get enough credit for what they do. So let's do something different and do a little tribute to them. So we got the main cast in a room, and Tara was on Skype because she was in LA. And then Josh and Nicole came up, and this was, when was this? This was like late fall of 2017, so this is a while ago now. And we just sort of sat them in a room and said, like, what, you guys know your individual characters very, very well. What are some things that you've always wished that you could have your character do? And I think Andrea was the first one who screamed out, I want Pinkie Pie to go to space. So we're like, okay. And then we got a bunch of stuff, like, Tabitha had pitched the heist concept, and then there were other things too that just didn't fit. Like she had an idea that Rarity's accent was sort of a put on, and that she had a much different, quote unquote, real voice. And then Ashley wanted to have Rainbow interact with Zephyr again, and Kathy wanted to have more of the Spike sibling relationship explored, and Tara wanted to have some sort of rivalry with Shining Armor. So we had all these disparate ideas, and Josh and Nicole, like, we wrote them all down and gave them to Josh and Nicole, and they went away for a while, and worked some strange alchemy and actually managed to build a coherent story around all these ideas and link them up in a super cool way. And then when we got to the boarding process, we came up with this concept of, okay, so when they're coming up with their plans, we should do each of these in a slightly different style. It was sort of built off of like, well, when Rarity's talking about her film noir stuff, we have to do that style that we did before, right? Like we have to do black and white. We have to make it film noir. And then we're like, okay, well then what can we do for Pinkie Pie in space? Okay, well, what if we do it like Le Petit Prince, like that old French cartoon? So it has a bit of that vibe in the design. And then AJ's, we put the sepia tone filter stuff on it and gave it a bit of an old country feel. And then Fluttershy's and Spike's had like when you watch it again, the colors are a little bit more intense because we put a filter and a green on it, so it looks a little bit more like a 70s exploitation film, like a cheesy low budget spy movie.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then the board artist just had it was Kaylee Chard and Tori Grant, and they had a really fun time putting that all together. I mean, some of the performances, like when Ryan Beale came back and did Zephyr, and he had a few extra ad-libs, like we had to have him extend some dialogue while the Rainbow Dash and Rarity were sneaking away, and he's like, sometimes when I'm guarding, I walk over here, and I'm like, ow, 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 ow. Like, that was all improvised stuff, and super funny in the record studio, and then Tori took it and added all those extra crazy Zephyr poses, and it's just hilarious. Like
it's so good.
There's such a fine line with Zephyr that he could be, in the hands of a different actor, he could be a super creep, like a weird, pervy sexual predator. But Ryan gives him a little bit of charm so that you don't totally hate him, and he's just a fun dolt. And then playing Rainbow Dash off of him and really not being into his advances is always hilarious to us, anyway.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah,
it's so good. And I love that we've qualified that Zephyr isn't a creep, because that is the perfect thing to do on a stream called the After Hour with Wing. Seems like we've.
He is a creep, but he's sort of an innocent creep. Like he's not like you could deflect him easily. He's not. You're not gonna have to call the cops.
Well, by the end of the episode, he still got pulled away by a guard. So.
Yeah, he got fired, and then of course, I think Ryan improvised that line of. To be fair, no one explained to me what guarding was, so this is on you. So this is on you is his bit, and it's really funny.
And the expressions, I mean, like, again, the expressions during that episode were just great. I mean, everyone, it just felt dialed up, and I love it.
Yeah, I mean, after 9 years of building up this library and of stuff, it's become easier to push things because you're not having to build everything else around it, so you can really focus on pushing the faces. Like, obviously, there's still the work of putting all those assets in and posing them, but, there's a little bit more flexibility in the facial stuff. And we had some really talented layout artists who were very, very good at that, and we just were able to say, go sick, have fun.
Oh, it was so magical. It's just downright magical. And you said the key phrase in there. You've been at this for almost a decade. Yeah. And that is really special. I mean, that isn't normal.
No, I mean, for me, it's super weird because the first show I worked on was Ed, Edd n Eddy, and I was on that for 10 years. Then I worked on a few little things for a bit, and then Pony for almost a decade. Like, that's really unusual in an animation career. Usually it's you're on this for 8 months, you're on another show for a year and a half. So by the time you're 20 something years in, like me, your resume is pretty extensive, and mine's really just these 2 shows.
These 2 shows that show that charisma has been shot.
No, wrong. Incorrect.
I could go there.
Your sample size of 1 is not enough to form a proper theory. You should know that.
Oh, you're right. I do know this. I do. Technically it's 2 plus or minus 2.
Still.
It could be 0, it could be 4. I mean, uncertainty works both ways.
Fair enough.
I love it. Okay, time to get down to the really, you've already been. It's almost noon already.
I've been yakking too much.
No, you've just crushed it. Look, my job was to not talk a lot. My job was to let you actually tell the people in the stream things that are useful, and that's absolutely happened.
Are people enjoying it?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. I'm getting like, oh, this is awesome. It's Jim's day. It's been 9 seasons. Oh, yeah. Okay, I have a couple of... This is just me being weird. If you're out and about and you're at a bar, and this is absolutely crucial, and it's karaoke night, what's your go-to song?
At karaoke one time I sang Bjork's It's Oh So Quiet.
Oh, snaps.
Yeah, that was really fun because you get to be really cute in the quiet parts and then really scream on the big parts. So that was pretty fun.
Personally, I'm a Bob Seger man. You hit me up with Bob Seger and it's like done. I'm in.
Well, you're from the Midwest. That makes perfect sense to me.
I'm going to see him. I got tickets.
Where is he? Is he doing like a summer tour or something?
Yeah, it's his last tour. I'm going. I'm like club seats. Hell yeah, I'm in. Like,
nice.
Let me see that man. All right. Personal question. You fulfilled 1/2 of my crazy personal onslaught. The second one, and this is absolutely crucial. So, does Equestria follow the flat Earth hypothesis?
You know what? That's really interesting because there are shots where you could say yes, and then there are shots where you could say no. So this has been an ongoing thing on my Twitter page. Like a lot of people want to know about the astrophysics of this world, and to be completely honest, we don't think about it. It's not something that we spend a lot of time discussing or rationalizing or having to make sense. Like there's dumb stuff in the show, like, oh, Celestia and Luna are knocked out. How are the sun and moon still rising? I don't know, but we don't have time to explain how it works because it's really not the point of this episode. So all the maps we have of the world are flat. They are flat. So and with the way the map table works, it does look like a flat Earth. Like there's no curvature to that map. And then we were always reticent, especially in the early seasons, of showing, like if they went up high in the sky, we didn't want to show definitively that it was a planet or anything. I don't remember why, but I think it was just because we didn't want to nail down the scope of anything too early because we didn't know how big it was going to go, right?
Yeah.
And then over the course of the years, the first couple seasons, Equestria feels big, but then we reveal there's more around it, and they're like, oh, wow, it's actually a lot smaller than we thought. And then in the movie, they go even further, and it's like, holy crap, this world is way bigger than we had any idea. So, I don't know. That's a coin toss. That's a coin toss.
So the only reason why I brought it up is that I decided in my upcoming panel that equestrian and astronomy was going to be one of the things that I tackled.
Well, maybe you can finally put this all to rest. If you write a dissertation, please forward me the link so I can send it to people.
Well, look, the thing for me, though, is I don't want to be that guy who gets up at the panel and goes, okay, so like here's the physics and this is why it's right and you all have to listen to me because haha, I'm smart. The biggest joy in the preparation for me has been essentially saying, look, exactly what you said. Nobody working on the show took the time to like think. Like the joy is in finding the consequences. So the only reason why I brought it up is because saying it's a flat Earth is one of the silly things that could possibly explain, but it's more amusing to say that it's not.
Yeah. I mean, people ask me stuff like, how does the political system work? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I know that's a crappy answer. I wish, like, they seem to think that there's this big document of all this deep world building stuff, and I wish there was, but a lot of it is pulling it out of our butts when we need to. Maybe that sounds bad to say, but it's true.
It doesn't sound bad to say. It sounds pretty much what I would expect. So I'm totally not going to send you the dissertation on.
No, please do. I'm
Flat
curious
Earth
to read it.
The one that I will send you, because I'm a super nerd, is I took that thing on Charlie's chalkboard, and I made it a working theory of magic. That one I will send you because I am absolutely nerdgasming over it.
Well, what's that quote? Is it Bradbury who says like to any lesser civilization, advanced science would look like magic?
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
And it would. It absolutely would. And
like if people showed up here and they had anti-gravity stuff and they didn't tell us how it worked, it would seem like bloody magic.
So like I am totally down for like explore. So like one thing for me is I saw that equation on the board and I'm like, oh, this is gibberish, but oh snaps, there's vector calculus in here. Why would a Philly or a cult need to know that? And I was like, well, it doesn't make sense from our perspective, but culturally, if it's magic, kind of does.
Yep.
They use it every day. So kind of in the same way that if we were a completely oral culture, we had no written language, what would a written language look like? It would just be like, oh, snaps. Whew. No, nobody would have any idea. It'd just be crazy.
Well, the other thing is because, people have complained, speaking of like written language, why don't we have text on the screen? Well, part of the thing with that is this is an international show. It's shown in multiple countries with multiple different languages. So we just avoid nailing down English text on the screen because then everyone watching it understands what's happening.
Yeah. Nah, and that makes... I mean, to me, these things make perfect sense. I feel like sometimes people get a little bit... they take their investment and they go a little bit too much, and instead of having their investment augment what they feel, they use that to kind of infringe upon other people's enjoyment. Maybe they should just chill out.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not exclusive to this show. It happens in all fandoms.
All over. Yeah, no, that's right. It does. It's everywhere.
As long as, look, people watched it enough that we got 9 seasons. We can't complain.
And 9 glorious seasons. I'm still tripping on how good season 9 is.
That's good. I hope the back half is as good for you as the front half.
Okay. I've had this one on my brain for a while.
All right.
This may be the point where you have to just be like, no, I can't answer that, and that's fine.
All right.
Maybe we can use production codes. Is there an episode in the back half like we should put an extra special star on our calendars for?
Oh, definitely the end of everything.
Well, we'll definitely be here for that one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Because in the past, there's been things where I'm like, this episode's gonna blow their minds, and they're like, yeah, that's fine. And then there's other ones where I'm like, this one's okay, I guess. And then people lose their shit over it. So I don't know. I'm not a good arbiter of that. I'm biased, and the way I view things as being good or bad comes from a very different place. Because I was involved with making that sausage the whole time, so I know where the challenges were and where the things were that were really tough to happen, and where our big success on putting it all together was. And as a viewer, you may not register that. So it's hard to say. I don't know. I think, well, obviously have you seen I guess they released the titles and stuff for the next 6?
I don't. Okay, time to go to the best place to find this MLP list of episodes wiki. That's where you get all your magical needs. Let's see. Did they? I'm not sure that they did.
I saw something floating around.
Well, I'm the type of person that I don't go hunting the spoilers.
Okay, well I'll keep it vague then. We have a guest star returning in the second half of the season.
Ooh. Okay.
So that's pretty good. There's another sort of thematic to the season episode coming up around episode 17.
Okay. Marking that with that. Put the stamp in that.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there's some good stuff. I mean, look, there's lots of stuff that people are going to be disappointed we didn't touch on or cover, and there's any number of reasons why that didn't happen. Time, Hasbro wasn't interested in dealing with that particular aspect or storyline. I just hope people feel relatively satisfied with, like, we're getting an ending. We're getting a proper ending. Instead of just finding out at the end of the season, like, oh, that's it, you're done. Like, oh, well, would have been nice to try and wrap up some stuff.
No, I think that is really nice. And one of the things that I'll probably ask you once the season is over is what are the things that you didn't get to do that you would have liked, but that is definitely, I'm very curious about that, so I'm going to put a pin on that one.
Yeah, it'll be much easier to talk about that stuff once it's all said and done.
Yeah, definitely. And, like, triple extra bonus props for Holiday and Lofty.
Yeah, that was really cool that we got to do that.
I love them so much.
They're awesome. The designs for them was really good. I mean, we really wanted to use Pixel Kitty's original designs, but, you know, it becomes a whole legal issue because she did, like, fan art and blah, blah, blah. So, but the fact that we got to bring them over from the books was really, really cool. And then coming up with a story that kind of made sense for Scootaloo's parents and how the ants are involved. And yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing that would have been nice to explain 5 seasons ago, but there just wasn't the opportunity or interest then. So
it was, I loved it. It was a big shout.
Awesome.
I feel the dream.
And I feel like there's a big percentage of the Brony community that deserves to have that recognition and see that representation. I wish we could do more of it.
Well, this cat horse enthusiast really appreciated it.
Excellent. At work we call them cat pigs.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So every time I say cat horse, somebody's just like, "What are you talking about, Wing? What does that mean?" I'm like, "That's just what I call them because it amuses me." So I feel semi-validated.
Yeah, you're 50% validated. We call them cat pigs. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, awesome. Okay, cat pig. That's entered the repertoire. All right, Big Jim. I feel like I've stolen a lot of your time.
No problem. I'm happy to come on. Thank you for asking me to join you.
It's amazing. I've been doing this stream now for like 7 years.
Oh, wow.
And you are the first guest from the show that I've ever had on.
Oh, so, wow, I'm flattered.
To me, it's like an NCAP dream come true. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Well, I'll promise you right now that once the finale is, once it's all done, I'll come back on and we can have a longer conversation with extended no NDA issues.
Oh, snaps. All right, well, you heard it right here, folks. Big Jim is coming back. It's happening. It's real. I love it. Oh boy. Well, I will free you from this beast, unless you want to hear me sing old time rock and roll before.
I think I'm okay. I'm okay.
Yeah, no, you should escape, because I definitely feel after you have been here that I have to do it live to assert my love of my crew.
Yeah, it's not going to come through on the crappy headphones I'm using.
It'll be terrible, and you'll just be depressed, and we can't have that after you just gave us such valuable insight. So thanks again, Big Jim.
Thank you, sir.
You're amazing. Thanks for occupying a huge part of my time today and making my Saturday.
Thank you, and thanks to everyone who's on the stream who listened to me blather on for a bit.
Oh, it was great.
Thanks, pal. We'll talk to you soon.
See you later, Big Jim.
Bye.
Whee! Well, you are the man. That's what I'm saying to Big Jim. Right now. Because you know what's coming? I'm doing it. I'm doing it live. I don't care anymore. Oh, you're great. You are great. Oh, I feel like, I just, makes me feel good. Makes me feel good inside. Let's sign this stream outright. We're doing it the right way. Oh, I will. Oh, let's do this. It's on now. We're doing it. And just take those old records off the shelf. I'll sit and listen to them by myself. Today's music ain't got the same soul. I like that old time rock and roll. Don't try to take me to a disco. You'll never even get me out on the floor. In 10 minutes I'll be late for the door. I like that old time rock and roll. Still like that old time rock and roll. That kind of music just soothes the soul. I reminisce about the days of old with that old time rock and roll. Won't go to hear him play a tango. I'd rather hear some blues or funky old soul. There's only one sure way to get me to go. Stop playing old time rock and roll. Call me really, call me what you will. You say I'm old fashioned, say I'm over the hill. Today's music ain't got the same soul. I like that old time rock and roll. Still like that old time rock and roll. That kind of music just soothes the soul. I reminisce about the days of old with that old time rock and roll. Still like that old time rock and roll. That kind of music just soothes the soul. I reminisce about the days of old with that old time rock and roll. Still like that old time rock and roll. That kind of music just soothes the soul. I reminisce about the days of old with that old time rock and roll. Still like that old time rock and roll. That kind of music just soothes the soul. I reminisce about the days of old with that old time rock and roll. Still like that old time rock and roll. Yeah, that just happened. Well, you know what's coming, kids. I'm going to say the magic phrase, and then I'm actually going to hop on the Discord chat, but I'm going to shut the stream down and hop on the Discord chat, because holy crap, that was awesome. Now get the hell off my stream, you Celestia blessed hippies.